Hi, this is Michael Waitze, and welcome back to Thailand GameChanger. How you doing? We are focused on the driving forces behind the startup ecosystem in Thailand and Southeast Asia, produced by True Digital Park. I love it here in conjunction with Michael Waitze Media. We have the most informative and insightful, I cannot wait for today's conversation, with startup founders, venture capitalists, ecosystem builders, and leaders from tech giants and the government, all recorded here at the BeachCity studio in True Digital Park. Excuse me. I'm joined today by Pitcha Chaiwichian. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Co-founder at BetterBox. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. So just for the listeners that don't know you, for a little bit of context, can we get some of your background?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Pitcha. I grew up here in Bangkok. Went to Chula, then graduated with engineering degree.
Cool.
I joined SCG Siam Cement Group. Then I got a scholarship to Columbia Business School. Came back, joined them with the other business, a petrochemicals business.
Okay.
Then there's a like internal startup program within SCG called 021 Studio.
Got it.
My friends and I, we form a team, pitch to them, and now we are in a stage of building the business inside the studio, and now we are scaling up our business.
Okay, I want to get back to 0 to 1 in a second, but you said something that I didn't know. You got a scholarship to go to business school.
Oh yeah, right.
What does that mean? Like, did you apply for a scholarship? How did that? Because you were already at SCG at the time, right?
Right. But as you might know, a large corporates in Thailand, they provide scholarship.
Yeah.
For their employees.
Right.
So yeah, I apply. They have like quotas in a year, so I apply.
Okay.
And, lucky enough to get in.
And you went to
Columbia Business School.
What was that like?
It was great. It's
Did you live uptown?
well, yeah, I lived uptown. I
Okay.
really like it. It's a very residential area.
Yeah, it's
and,
really nice.
New York was great. I always run in Riverside Park.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And had you lived overseas before you went to Colombia?
Well, 2 times, but very short period.
Okay.
One's in Melbourne and one's in LA, in California.
Was that just for an exchange program?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara.
Because you don't have an Australian accent at all. A lot of people
I
come
don't.
back from Melbourne or whatever, from Sydney with an accent.
It was a short period, like 1 month.
Oh, okay, so
I didn't pick up.
That wasn't that long. So what was the inspiration for you and your team? And is your team all from inside of SCG as well?
Yeah,
Or
correct. They
this
are
company called
all-
BetterBox.
Yeah, they're all my friends. One of them, his name is Panu. So he also went to Chula. We actually met at Chula and did one project together. And then we also went to Columbia Business School at the same year.
Oh, wow.
So we are more than co-founders. We are
Right.
friends,
Wow.
bonded.
Yeah.
And the other co-founder is his wife. So we are pretty tight.
So this is a very important question, right? How important do you think it is for the co-founders to know each other really well? And how important is that team to you?
Well, I think it's very important because the fact that you know each other very deeply, sometimes you get to know what kind of conversation, what kind of the word that you pick to choose
Right.
and say to them when it goes beyond the friendship, when it goes to a professional thing that you have to do to get your company goes up.
Right.
So you know how to manage the very thin line between friendship and professional life.
Right.
And I think the fact that we know each other a lot for a long time, we understand each other and we know that, hey, if we say this, it's too much and it's gonna break up the team spirit. So
Right.
I think the fact that you know each other very well, you get to manage the gray line really well.
It's hard though, right?
It's hard, but yeah, we are too far.
How long have you been doing this now?
11 months.
Okay. So almost a year.
Almost a year.
So what exactly is BetterBox and what was the genesis of this idea? Like what made you think this up?
Sure. So we are corporate employees. We before we joined the studio, before we formed a team, we got a problem about we got older. So we work hard. We gained weight a lot. We had trouble finding good snacks and light meals in the office.
Okay.
And we had lunch together once, and then we said like, "Hey, there's this program." And then we all had this kind of problem, so why don't we solve it?
Right.
And environment here is very supportive now. Logistics is good. Cashless payment is coming up. So all the most of the ecosystems and tech are coming in to get your life better. Why don't we leverage this? Why don't we ride this wave? And yeah, that's the origin of the team. And then we pitch our idea in that we would like to be the omni-channel for health and wellness food for people, because we see that now the trouble is very serious. Almost 15 million people in working age period, they are facing this problem of the obesity. So
Really? In Thailand?
yeah,
I didn't realize that.
you know, like now Thailand becomes the second country in Southeast Asia region in terms of the obese population.
What's the first?
Malaysia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which makes a certain amount of sense, right? If you eliminate Singapore from the mix, Singaporeans are generally not obese, but the Malaysians are actually, from a GDP per capita standpoint, the wealthiest, and the Thai are second. So it kind of makes sense in a way that they're second most, that they eat the second most amount of food. Anyway, so does that mean that you and the team are still employees of SCG, or are you now separate and just employees of your own company? How does that company setup work?
Okay, so now we are still employees, but with 021 Studio, they for our so we are in the second batch of the internal startup program.
Okay.
And in this second batch, they provide options for the founders. I mean, if the founder would like to build up the company and become one of the SCG subsidiaries,
Right.
that's one option. And the other one, if the founder would like to try to raise the capital outside, you can try it. If you guys are successful, then let them know.
Really?
Yeah, they will try to support, and they will try to figure out how to bring you guys to that area.
So SCG runs this 0 to 1 program. I want to talk a little bit in more detail about how that works for you. But they also run a venture capital business as well.
Yes, right.
What's the relationship between them? I don't know.
Okay. So there are two separate sites, but they also cooperative to each other.
Okay.
So adventures, they go out to see and due diligence other business which could provide some synergy with SCG.
Right.
And then they invest in it. For 021 Studio, they are on the building startups from the inside. Because they believe that so the existing employees could see some of the internal problems. They could bring the solution to it and build it up on the scalable sides.
Right. I mean, corporate venture building is actually becoming a big thing in Thailand, right?
Right. And I think it's a very good and important area, and it's important source of getting the innovation out of the business in an effective way. That's my idea.
It's interesting as well, right? Because this means that the corporate itself doesn't have to lose employees like you.
Correct.
And your ideas and your hard work and all the other things that you provide, but yet they give you an outlet to provide innovation that's sort of ancillary, a little bit separate to what they're doing in the main business. This way you don't leave.
Yep.
And for you, it's a benefit because you get a little bit of the security of still being part of the corporate environment, but get to express your creativity and innovation, right?
But they're also kind enough, as I mentioned before, they also provide the option if you guys want to try to go out and raise capital, then talk to them if you guys have a plan. They're open, and I think it's very good.
That is awesome. The flexibility is great, right?
Right.
So is there a program that 0 to 1 does? Have you learned a bunch of things from them? In other words, do they teach you how to scale? Do they teach you how to do simple things like SEO and all that stuff?
Yeah, they actually provide a lot of fundamentals in which are necessary for the startup to be.
Right.
For example, they have many sources for the startup which actually need, for example, the like the agency unit where you need to connect when you need to hire the team members.
Right.
And also they also get a good connection with Avengers and then leverage it so that the internal startups could pitch to the other VC firms,
Right.
including Thai and international.
Cool.
And that's a very interesting area,
Right.
because if you don't have any exposure to those VC firms, how are you going to scale your business? How are you going to raise the capital for your seed stage?
Right.
So I think that's the most important part that I think we received from 0 to 1 collaboration with Adventures.
Got it. So can I ask you, like personally, what you've learned in the last 11 months that's different from what you learned at business school or just in your first few years working at SCG? Because it's got to be different, right?
Right. To be specific, they try to tell us to prove that your startup has to prove the key fundamental things. 1, can you do it?
Right.
2, does customer want it?
Right.
3, is it scalable?
Okay.
And I think those are very legit in terms of proving your business. If those cannot be proved, then your startup has nothing to do with solving solutions.
It's just not going to work, right?
I think that's a key principles which are important enough to us to build a startup.
And where is the office for 0 to 1? In other words, where do you go to work every day? Is it in the same place where...
It's still in Bang Sue area.
So it's in the same place where the Adventures business is?
Right.
Okay, so I've been there.
Okay, cool.
I've been there, and I can understand now why it's hard for you to get food or light snacks or a light meal.
Right.
When you're there, and also that complex is quite large.
Yeah.
Which means that at least your test market there is pretty big, no?
Yep.
So how has business been going so far?
Okay, we started off in January. We launched our first MVP in February.
Okay, that's fast.
Yeah, and until now it has been 11 months. Our revenue is growing on average 70% per quarter.
70%?
70% per quarter.
And that's not all internal, right? So you're not just selling to SCG people anymore, or are you?
No. We go out because as I mentioned before, so 0 to 1 Studio, they asked that one of the key questions is, does customer want it? So they said, hey, why don't you go out and prove that any other people outside also want your product?
Right.
So they support us to go out and then test the market outside. And then we did it. And I think it was a great learning that we tried it.
So do you have to sell B2B or do you sell B2C? In other words, you just go inside the company and say, hey, do you want some light snacks and light meals that are healthy? Or do you go to the company, like to human resources, and say, can we talk to your people about this? How does that sales thing work?
You're correct. That's a B to B2C.
Right.
Our business is B to B2C. So BetterBox is omni-channel. We have offline, which is the unmanned kiosk. And this is the B to B2C, where we go to HR people and the FMD, like facility management.
Yep.
And then they say, like, hey, we have this solution for you. It costs you nothing. We provide you service. We restock our products for free.
Right.
Can we operate in here? And then, that's the origin of setting up our kiosk inside the corporates.
So you have an unmanned kiosk that has a list of food in there.
Right.
And then people can just choose. It's almost like a vending machine.
Well, it's not exactly like vending machine. We are open. Well, we are actually like honesty-based kiosk.
Do you have one of those at what's it called? The Knowledge Exchange? The KX Knowledge Exchange?
Yes, we set up there one.
Okay, because that's what I was wondering. I've seen it now. Now I understand.
Right.
And it's purely honest based, right? It's like,
Exactly.
trust me, if I take that, whatever it is, I have to pay for it somehow.
Yeah, and it's funny because whenever we go out, people always be curious about, hey, are you guys going to survive?
Does the honor system work?
Right, but we have proved it for a couple of months, and we are confident that it's working. And
I like
people
the
are
idea.
more honest than you think.
I think people are way more honest than most people think.
Right.
I really do. And if you give somebody the opportunity, if it's so obvious there, because I've been in that building and I've been hungry.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm just taking one. No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so, I think humans are tempted to do the wrong thing, but default to the right thing.
Exactly.
I really feel like that. Like, if anybody's going to notice, there's this weird peer pressure, right, to do the right thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you feel like is one of your properties, then what's the motivation to steal or to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love this idea.
Thank you.
And how do you do payments? You do mobile payments?
Okay, so
Did you build that yourself or do you have partners? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Sorry. So so our MVP we build up just only with the QR, and then we let people pay by using the mobile application of bank mobile application.
So K-Bank or one of those.
Right,
banks,
and
yeah.
then you just push this QR scanning.
Okay.
But that has some barrier between us and the customer because we cannot communicate our marketing directly to them.
Right.
And also they have some problem about the experience of multiple scanning. So
Yeah.
we created the mobile application, and now we are operating on our mobile application. Our partners are payment gateways, banks, which we connect the API with them.
Right.
So now our customer could just scan the QR, take the product away, or they can shop by adding to cart at their desk, or picked up the product and pay later.
Wow.
So we actually put the technology to enable all of this operation.
Maybe that's why you're getting 70% quarter-over-quarter growth.
I hope so.
There's so many questions here. What is like one of the biggest challenges or some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in building this business?
Okay, so I think one of the I think it's customers' exception.
Right.
So when people get used to something, it's pretty hard to convert them to the new solution.
Right.
that they
Changing
built it.
habits is really hard.
Right, but once you did it once
Yeah.
and they see the benefit, they're fine with it.
Well, now it's a new habit.
Right,
So once you can get them to make it a new habit, you've
Right.
won, right?
right.
Okay.
So one thing I think we have to do is you just need to be brave. Go out there. Ignore all of your ego. Just talk to the customer. Just
love that.
understand what they want.
I love that statement. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So some people think that, hey, now you're a 30-something, you should be in the mid or senior level.
Right.
And sometimes you have the ego, like you don't want to go out and talk to people like you are one of the service providers, one of the vendors, one of the like construction people. But well, hey, actually, if you are building something and then you would like people to try and then happy with it, you're gonna speak, you're gonna talk to them. Just ignore your ego.
So let's just go through a little bit of progression again. I want to get back to this, right? You went to Chula and you studied engineering.
Yep.
Your parents must have been very proud. You don't have to answer, but your parents must have been proud, right? You get a job at SCG, which is one of the top 3 companies in Thailand, whatever the number is. But again, your parents are proud, right? You go to Colombia, they're just constant pride. Now you're working on your own thing. Remember you said once you reach your mid-30s, you should be like senior level or whatever. But they must be so proud. I talked to other founders about this, right? Where there's this family pressure. I know I had family pressure. How come you didn't go to law school kind of thing, right? I know what that feels like. I'm like, I'm going my own way. But trust me, it's going to work kind of thing. When they watch you building this, like what does your family think about you building this thing from scratch, yeah?
Okay. They're supportive, but sometimes they also question like, are you making good progress?
Right.
Sometimes they ask, sometimes they provide comments, but
Unsolicited feedback.
yeah, exactly. But I think what they see is the bonding of the founders that we have built. So they know the other 2 co-founders because we are friends, right? So they know the capability of us.
Right.
So I think they're not that worried, and they kind of support.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've spoken to a bunch of founders, and there's like a mix, right? If your family's not behind you, it just gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
Just because there's that constant pressure. Anyway, you mentioned as well a little bit about wellness, right, or healthy. How do you source product? Like, how do you determine what's good for people, what's bad for people? How do you keep that balance?
Okay. So Thai food is overwhelming. So people would like to get a very tasty dish all the time.
Right.
And that becomes a curse, I think. People always stick to the very good taste product. But I think now a lot of food winners, well, I think there's a way from the Western side as well. Like there are the other alternative ingredients
Right.
where it could actually replace some of the sugar.
Right.
So now we are selecting the products where they use these alternative ingredients
Really?
so that the nutrition becomes more balanced.
Got it.
And that's our core principle of selecting the product right now.
I understand. And is all of the stuff that you sell packaged, or is any of it fresh? In other words, if I wanted to order, like a vegan hamburger kind of thing,
Okay.
that's hot food that comes freshly made. Do you
Okay.
do that yet? And if you don't, do you consider doing it?
Well, actually, we are now, to answer your question, we now is all packaged,
Got it.
but we are trying to do more fresh products, for
Got it.
example, sandwich,
Right.
because now we have prepared all the logistics and foundation of like lead time of the products.
Right.
I think we are ready to step up towards more fresh product, like you said, because the health and wellness food market here, it's $6.2 billion US.
Wow, I was going to ask you how big it was.
Yeah, and that's crazy. And for snacks, it's snacks and light meal. They are easier to do first if you start from scratch,
Right.
because of the operation thing. And this market has experienced the highest CAGR from 2018 to 2023 of 12%.
Do you want to define CAGR for people that don't know what that means?
Okay, it's compound annual growth rate.
Annual growth rate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
No
and
problem.
yeah, right. Sorry.
Not everybody went to business school.
Sorry.
And that's not a problem. It's more
Thank
funny.
you.
It's more funny than anything else.
Yeah, and then so I think we would like to be keen on the packaged foods first,
Right.
which is now we think we are ready to step up towards food.
So I was at a little plaza that I like to go to last week, and there's a hamburger joint there. And one of the things that I noticed was right out small, it's a really small little place. There were 5 delivery guys, Line Man, Food Panda, whoever, Get was there. Most of their business, it looked to me, was delivery,
Right.
not the people sitting in the plaza eating. In other words, I went up to order something, and they had already run out of it because their delivery business was booming. Do you think about building just bespoke kitchens just for delivery in sort of strategic neighborhoods and places, and then fulfilling orders that way?
You mean like co-cooking space?
Not even a co-cooking space.
Co-kitchen.
Just your own kitchen even, or even starting in a co-kitchen so you don't have to make the CapEx investment to have all the equipment. But if it starts working, and if you're growing 70% quarter over quarter, right?
Right.
Would you have your own kitchens in strategic places? Not where no one can sit. I can't go there and eat there, but I can order from there, and the food thing get produced really freshly, but just in that area.
Okay. So we just used to think about it. But it could be one of the vertical integrations of our business, but we think our operation and our profession right now is not in that area yet.
Got it.
Until we get more knowledge in terms of some kind of food scientist people.
Got it.
Now we're still learning more on the nutrition. We haven't been there yet, but that's a very good area to dig down into vertically.
I just read about that a lot, and I think it's a really interesting opportunity.
I think it's popping up a lot in China.
Yeah, and also I saw some of it in the United States, but I think Thailand is so ripe for this type of solution
Could be.
because of the way, like you said, food is made, and also the way it's going to get distributed.
I heard people also, I think some people are doing it.
Yeah, I think some people are as well.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity there for sure. I think about it a lot. So can we just get a little bit more general? Now that you've been at this for
Sure.
a year, but you've been looking at this for a while, how would you characterize the current state of the Thai startup ecosystem?
Is it good and bad? I think there are a lot of goods as well, and there are some challenges, I would say. So on the good side, I think the government is very supportive.
Okay.
NIA, DIPA,
BOI.
yeah, they provide access to some capital. They provide access to some accelerator programs.
Yep.
And local VCs, they are also pretty active. For example, like here in TDPK, they set up like the VC clinic. We also sometimes join the events here, which is pretty good because you get to pitch to the real VC and then get their comments.
The feedback is great. Should be, right?
The feedback, yeah.
Right.
Because as you know, if you run startup, there are a lot of versions of the slide that you have to do.
Right.
Right. But then on the challenging side,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is pretty obvious. Comparing to Indonesia and Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
if you have the same business,
Mm-hmm.
and then Vietnamese and Indonesian have the same business,
Right.
VC will put their eyes on those two countries.
Why?
The population.
But the population in Vietnam is not that much bigger than the population here, and the GDP per capita in Thailand is 2 or 3 times what it is in Vietnam. So
That
it's a much wealthier country, Thailand.
well, from what I know, I think
Okay.
VC just view in terms of the market size. They just be like, yeah, like, hey, there is a money on the table. That's what I heard of,
Right.
and that's why I think it's a challenge for Thai startups, because if they have those leverage and then you don't have more leverage in talking to them,
Right.
then it will be harder in the future if you don't have something for your own. So I think the solution for this is that you need to open up yourself more. You need to go out and then talk to more VC, even
For sure.
international VCs.
Absolutely.
If you don't know them, just get to those Thai firms who already connect with those international VCs.
Yep.
They are more than happy to connect with.
Absolutely. They
Like-
want to know you.
Right.
Right. Some of the feedback that I get from the venture capitalists in Singapore or even in Japan is, I want to invest more in Thailand, but I don't know into which companies I should invest because I can't meet them myself.
Yeah, right.
Right.
The way we so one of our friends, he's in Adventures, and then he has a lot of works with international VCs,
For
and then
sure.
he helps us connect to them. And on top of that, the founders also, we have to be we have to fight. We have to be proactive in that. So
Yeah.
we just, when we talk to them, then we expand more on the list of the VCs. So it could be in terms of the VC who is interested in the same business as your startups,
Right.
or the VC who would like to get some access into Thailand.
Right.
So if you do your homework, if you think you fight enough, then I think you'll get something in return.
So when the VC says to you, we're more interested in investing in Vietnam or in Indonesia. Indonesia, I get 270 million people. It's a really large country. Vietnam was, 100 million people. So fair enough. Do you consider expanding outside of Thailand
Yes,
into
sure.
Vietnam and Indonesia and other countries?
Yeah. Actually, we have to, because we think it's not we have to. We have to, one thing, but
Right.
it's doable.
Oh, it's definitely doable.
Yeah. Now, a lot of startups are growing, and then so it destroys all of the barrier between countries.
Completely.
Yeah. So I think, well, you don't need to be afraid. You just go there and then try to do it.
This is a common theme for you, though. This is like the 3rd or 4th time you said, like, you have to be fearless.
Yeah, you have to be fearless.
You just do, though, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about this offline, but I want to ask you online. So you have an MBA, right?
I had.
Yeah. But you also speak English really well.
Well, thank you.
You do. I mean, it's a fact. I'm not just making it up, right? But do you think that gives you an edge when you go to expand? In other words, does it make your life easier when you try to go to Indonesia or try to go to Vietnam or try to go to expand into Singapore? That ability to just be able to communicate with everybody.
Sure. I think that gives us an edge, because these VC firms, they hire international people. Like some VCs, they
Right.
migrate from the US.
Right.
They migrate from Europe.
Live in Singapore, live wherever, yeah.
Right. So, English is important.
Yeah, it feels like it.
So because at the end of the day, you have to pitch to them.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's unavoidable that you have to learn English, improve yourself in the skills, improve yourself in the jargon, learn the VC terms,
Right.
and at the end of the day, after you pitch to them, all of the documents, like the key terms,
Right.
the contracts, the agreements, it's all comes out in English.
Right. So it's just easier if
So-
you can do it that way.
Yeah, so you gotta do your homework. You gotta know what they want. You're gonna know jargon that they talk.
Right.
You're gonna know what kind of metrics that they like. and these things they are in English. So well,
Right. So if someone says to you MRR or ARR, and you don't know what that means,
yeah,
it's gonna be bad.
right. You
It's
lost
gonna be-
opportunity to talk to them,
Exactly.
and sometimes these people, they kind of
No, they do it on purpose.
yeah,
I can say it. You don't have to say it, but I will say this. There's a concept in the venture capitalist world of I'm smarter than you. I've said it. You don't have to agree with me. But my point is that I can throw jargon at you that I know you don't understand, or as a test to see if you do understand it, right? Have you done your cohort analysis? What's your MRR,
exactly.
right? You can even throw CAGR at them. Like, do you know what I mean? But there's a way to test.
Right.
Some of it's nice, some of it's not so nice. But anyway, I
Yeah,
get
it's
it.
like the words that they need to use and they need to work with. Sometimes they don't know that they do that, but
Right.
well, I mean, on the good side,
Mhm.
from what I have experienced,
Yeah,
these VCs people are in our age and they are friendly.
Yeah.
So I think they don't have. Sometimes they don't have those intentions. But
Yeah, I don't think so either, but sometimes it may seem that way.
yeah, sometimes it makes people think.
Anyway, the last question I want to ask you is, with all your sort of embedded experience, you've lived overseas, right? You studied overseas, you're back in Thailand. What do you think is going to change the game in Thailand for the startup world?
Okay. Well, I think you have to see the synchronization of the resource that Thailand already has,
Right.
and also the opportunity in the bigger market that they want.
Right.
So if you try to match those things, I think that could be a great way out for the startups. I think Thailand also has a lot of potential, a lot of very great universities
Yeah.
which build robots, which build good things in terms of good solutions in terms of agricultural industry.
Yep.
We grow up in that area. We should be keen on that. And now the trend goes towards agri.
Agritech, yeah.
So I think you should take this opportunity, just build yourself up, and then make research. Do some research outside. What do they want? And then take what you already have, and then go out there and then nail them down.
That's awesome. Look, I really want to thank you for doing this, right? I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Pitcha Chaiwichian, the co-founder at BetterBox. This was really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.